Morayo Tobi had reached the stage of tiredness where even her shadow looked exhausted. Lagos had dealt with her thoroughly that day. The buses were rude, the rain was disrespectful, and her phone, her only emotional support device, had died somewhere between "I'm 5 minutes away" and "please manage without me." She stood by the roadside, shoes in her hand, feet aching like they had personally offended the ground. Her dress clung to her body, damp and tired, just like her spirit. "God," she whispered, staring up at the cloudy sky, "if you won't send a husband now, at least send a place to sleep." That was when she saw it. The gate, tall, black, shiny, with gold designs that screamed generational wealth. Lights glowed softly from within, warm and welcoming, like the kind of place where people drank water from glasses instead of sachets. Morayo laughed weakly. "Ah, so this is how rich people's hotels look." She didn't question it. She couldn't afford to. Hunger and exhaustion had canceled logic. She pressed the bell. Almost immediately, the massive gate slid open with the smooth confidence of a place that had never known poverty. Morayo gasped. "Wow," she breathed. "Even the gate has manners." She stepped inside, her eyes widening at the perfectly trimmed lawn, the quiet fountains, the smell of something expensive and calming. As she approached the entrance, a man in a well-tailored suit opened the door. "Good evening, ma'am," he said calmly. Morayo nearly cried. "Good evening, sir. Please, I just need a room for the night. Any room is fine. I won't touch anything. I won't even breathe too loudly." The man studied her briefly, her soaked dress, her tired eyes, her desperation. Then he stepped aside. "Please, come in." Morayo almost knelt. Inside was not a lobby, but Morayo didn't know that. All she knew was marble floors, soft lighting, and silence. The kind of silence that meant money lived here. She kept waiting for someone to ask for her ID, or money, or her life history. Nobody did. A staff member appeared and gently took her small bag. "Madam, this way." Morayo followed obediently, afraid that if she spoke, someone might realize she didn't belong. They passed a hallway filled with framed portraits, men and women with serious faces. She frowned. Hotel founders, maybe. She was led to a large bedroom that smelled like fresh linen and peace. Is this not too big?" she asked carefully. "Not at all," the staff replied. The bed looked like it could heal trauma. Morayo didn't argue. The moment the door closed behind her, she collapsed onto the mattress and let out a long sigh. "God bless this hotel," she murmured. She ate the food she found waiting. Perfect eggs, bread that tasted like it had ambitions, and juice that felt imported. Hunger silenced suspicion. She bathed, wrapped herself in a fluffy towel, and stared at herself in the mirror. "Morayo," she said softly, "even if this is a dream, enjoy it." She fell asleep within minutes, stretched across silk sheets, snoring lightly, unpossessed. Morning sunlight streamed in gently, touching her face like money. Morayo opened her eyes slowly, smiling. "Ah," she said, "I'm definitely not in my life anymore." She stretched, then noticed a shadow. She sat up. A tall man stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed, looking like authority had taken human form. She screamed. The man sighed deeply. "Madam," he said calmly, "why are you shouting in my house like NEPA just took light?" Morayo froze. "Your house?" "Yes." She glanced around again at the portraits, the chandelier, the sheer size of everything. "Then why does it look like a hotel that charges in dollars?" Ayodele Oladapo closed his eyes briefly, already tired. And just like that, Morayo Tobi realized she hadn't checked into a hotel. She had checked into a billionaire's life. Morayo Tobi had never dressed that fast in her life. She stood in the massive bathroom, marble everywhere, mirrors that showed her from angles she didn't ask for, wearing a borrowed, oversized shirt that smelled faintly of expensive detergent and generational wealth. She stared at her reflection. "Morayo," she whispered, "you slept in a stranger's mansion, a rich stranger, and you're still alive. God is faithful." She patted out cautiously. Ayodele Oladapo was already waiting in the sitting room, seated like a man who owned not just the house, but the air inside it. Laptop open, coffee steaming, calm restored. Morayo stopped walking. This sitting room alone could rent an apartment in Lekki Phase 1. "Good morning," she said politely, hands folded like she was in court. Ayodele looked up. His eyes paused, just briefly, taking in her bare legs, the oversized shirt, the way she suddenly looked soft. He cleared his throat. "Sit." She sat. Silence, thick, loud, awkward. Morayo coughed. "So, sir, about last night." "You rang my gate," he said evenly. "My staff let you in. You slept in my guest room, ate my food." "Yes, and thought nothing of it." She tilted her head. "Sir, with respect, everything here looks like it's supposed to be shared." He almost smiled. "Almost." "Why didn't you leave in the morning?" he asked. Morayo shrugged. "I tried. Then I saw the sun touching the curtains like that." She gestured vaguely. "I knew peace. I chose peace." Ayodele leaned back, studying her like a puzzle he didn't order. "You're not scared," he observed. "Oh, I am," she replied quickly. "But fear doesn't pay transport fare." That did it. He laughed again. A proper laugh this time. Morayo blinked. "Ah, it's working again." "What?" "Making rich people laugh. It's my hidden talent." Ayodele shook his head. "You're unbelievable." She smiled. "Thank you. I've been told." Breakfast was served. Morayo stared at the table like it might bite her. "Sir, is this still part of my accidental hotel package?" Ayodele gestured. "Eat." She didn't need encouragement. She ate like a woman who had known struggle, but not without commentary. "This tea tastes like it went to private school." Ayodele snorted. "These pancakes are soft-spoken." He hid his smile behind his cup. "You talk too much," he said. "Only when I'm comfortable," she replied before she could stop herself. Their eyes met. Something shifted. Ayodele looked away first. Later, as she prepared to leave, Morayo stood at the entrance, clutching her small bag. "Well," she said, suddenly shy, "thank you for not calling the police. Or the ancestors." Ayodele studied her quietly. "Where are you going?" She hesitated. "Anywhere transport can carry me." He frowned slightly. "Not pity, something else." "Stay," he said. She laughed nervously. "Sir, I don't want to upgrade from mistaken guest to professional squatter." "I mean for today," he clarified. "Until you figure things out." Morayo searched his face. No arrogance, no mockery, just loneliness wrapped in control. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. Ayodele nodded. "I don't enjoy eating alone." Her chest tightened unexpectedly. "Okay," she said, "but just today." They both knew it was a lie. As Morayo walked back inside the mansion she wasn't supposed to be in, she felt it, that dangerous flutter. She had mistaken a mansion for a hotel, and somehow, she was beginning to mistake a billionaire for something even more risky. Morayo Tobi told herself 3 things as she followed Ayodele Oladapo deeper into the mansion. 1. She would not touch anything unnecessarily. 2. She would not ask how much anything cost. 3. She would not, under any circumstance, start feeling comfortable. All 3 resolutions failed within 10 minutes. "This house is too quiet," Morayo said, breaking the silence as they walked. "Are you sure it's not haunted by rich ancestors?" Ayodele didn't slow his steps. "If it is, they're very disciplined. They only come out at night and mind their business." She nodded seriously. "That's good. I don't like dramatic spirits." He glanced at her, the corner of his mouth lifting despite himself. He showed her to a different guest room, slightly smaller than the first, but still large enough to host a family meeting and unresolved trauma. "This will be your room," he said. "Staff will bring you clothes later." Morayo stopped walking. "Sir," she said carefully, "I agreed to stay, not to be adopted." Ayodele raised an eyebrow. "Relax, you can return them when you leave." "When?" she echoed. "Yes, when." Their eyes met again. That strange pause returned, the one that felt too personal for 2 people who had known each other less than 24 hours. Ayodele cleared his throat. Make yourself comfortable. It'll be in my home office. Home office. Morayo watched him walk away. Must be nice, she murmured, then entered the room and shut the door gently, like the house might hear gossip. Later that afternoon, boredom attacked. Morayo had bathed, changed into a simple house dress provided by the staff, and paced the room like a woman under soft house arrest. Okay, she said to herself, you cannot just be here forming decorative item. She stepped out. The mansion seemed even larger in daylight. She followed the sound of typing and low phone conversations until she reached a partially open door. Ayodele's home office. Glass walls, bookshelves, calm menace. She knocked lightly. Yes, he said without looking up. She leaned in. Sir, do you need help? He finally looked at her. With what? She shrugged. Anything. Filing, holding paper, moral support. He studied her for a moment, then gestured to a chair. Sit. Morayo smiled. Ah, I've been promoted. She sat quietly at first. Truly. 5 whole minutes passed. Then she leaned over. Is it always this serious? Yes. Do you ever smile at work? No. That explains a lot. Ayodele sighed. Morayo. Yes, sir? You don't have to entertain yourself with my concentration. She nodded. Understood. Silence returned. 30 seconds later. Are you a billionaire because of stress, or were you stressed first? He stared at her. Then, against his will, he laughed. A soft one. She grinned. See? Therapy. Hours passed more easily than expected. She made tea. He corrected her pronunciation of foreign company names. She teased him for owning too many watches. You have one wrist, she said. Relax. You talk too much, he replied. You listen too intently. That one landed. Ayodele paused, eyes lifting slowly to hers. The air shifted. For a second, Morayo forgot herself, forgot the house, the difference, the rules she hadn't been given, but somehow felt. She looked away first this time. In the evening, staff brought dinner. Morayo hesitated before sitting at the table with him. This is starting to feel like a pattern, she said. What pattern? Me accidentally entering your life. Ayodele met her gaze steadily. You can leave tomorrow. She nodded. I know. Neither of them believed it. Dinner was quieter, softer, less joking, until Morayo spoke again. So, she said casually, do you have a girlfriend? Ayodele nearly choked on his drink. Why? She shrugged. I just want to know if I should be careful with my jokes. He recovered, eyes narrowing slightly. I don't. Oh, she said too quickly, then added, that's surprising. You look like someone who breaks hearts professionally. And you, he replied, look like someone who pretends not to notice when she's crossing lines. Her breath caught. She laughed to cover it. Sir, I don't even know where the lines are. That, he said quietly, is the problem. Silence fell again, but this time it wasn't awkward. It was charged. Morayo pushed her chair back suddenly. I should sleep. Ayodele stood as well. Good night. She paused at the doorway. Thank you, she said softly. For today. He nodded once. Good night, Morayo. As she walked away, Morayo's heart beat faster than it had any right to. She had come into the mansion by mistake, but now she was staying by choice. And Ayodele Oladapo was beginning to realize that the most dangerous thing in his house wasn't the intruder. It was the feeling he could no longer control. Morayo Tobi woke up with the unsettling feeling that she was being discussed. Not watched, discussed. She lay still in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening. The house was awake. Footsteps moved with purpose. Doors opened and closed softly. Somewhere downstairs, cutlery clinked with meaning. This mansion gossips, she muttered. I can feel it. When she finally stepped out of her room, freshly bathed and dressed in another borrowed outfit, a soft blue dress that fit her a little too well, she felt it immediately. The looks. Not rude, not open, but curious. Measuring. Staff greeted her politely, but their eyes lingered a second too long, like they were mentally updating a group chat. New girl. Still here, wearing madame clothes. Morayo smiled nervously. Good morning. Please, I'm not your new madam. I'm just passing through. One of the maids smiled back. Yes, ma'am. Morayo sighed. See, already. Ayodele was at the breakfast table when she arrived, scrolling through his phone, looking annoyingly composed. Good morning, she said. He looked up. There it was again, that pause. You slept well? He asked. Yes, she replied. Your pillows are emotionally supportive. A corner of his mouth lifted. Sit. She did. As she reached for the juice, a maid appeared instantly, adjusting the glass, the plate, the napkin, everything. Morayo froze. Am I sitting wrongly? The maid smiled tightly. No, ma'am. Morayo leaned toward Ayodele and whispered, Why are they acting like unfragile? They're not, he said calmly. They're acting like you matter. That landed harder than she expected. Later that morning, Ayodele stood up. I'm going to the office. Morayo blinked. Office? The one with other humans? Yes. Oh, she hesitated. Should I disappear? He studied her for a moment. Do you want to come? Her brain stopped working. Come. Where? With me. She laughed. Sir, I accidentally entered your house. Entering your workplace feels like ambition. I don't invite people lightly, he said, and you won't be alone. Morayo searched his face for sarcasm, found none. Okay, she said slowly, but if anyone asks, I'm your distant cousin from nowhere. He smiled, properly this time. The drive to the office was quiet, but not uncomfortable. Morayo sat in the passenger seat of a car that smelled like leather and control, hands folded in her lap. This car is too quiet, she said. Does it play music or just judge you? Ayodele pressed a button. Soft music filled the space. She nodded approvingly. Good, it has emotions. At the office, heads turned. Morayo felt it instantly, the shift in air when a woman walks beside a powerful man. People smiled, whispered, looked again. She leaned closer to Ayodele. They're zooming in with their eyes. Ignore them. I can't. I wasn't built for mystery. In his office, Morayo perched on the couch, trying not to touch anything expensive. Ayodele worked, calm, focused. Then his assistant walked in. She froze. Her eyes flicked from Ayodele to Morayo and back. Good morning, sir, she said carefully. Good morning, Ayodele replied. This is Morayo. The pause was microscopic, but deadly. Welcome, the assistant said, with a smile that did not reach her eyes. Morayo waved. Hello, I'm not what you're thinking. Probably. Ayodele coughed. By afternoon, Morayo felt the weight of it all. The looks, the unspoken questions, the invisible line she was standing on without permission. When they returned home, she finally spoke. People don't like surprises, she said quietly. Ayodele glanced at her. You didn't ask to be one. She nodded. Still, I don't want to be a problem. He stopped walking, turned to face her fully. You're not, he said firmly. This is my house, my life. Her throat tightened. The silence between them deepened. No jokes, no shields. Then Morayo exhaled and smiled weakly. Okay, but just so you know, I didn't plan to stay long enough for people to start imagining wedding Asoebi. Ayodele laughed. Too late. She blinked. What? He shook his head. Nothing. But as they walked inside together, Morayo felt it clearly now. This wasn't just a mistake anymore. It was a complication. And the house, the staff, the office, the walls themselves, all knew it. Morayo Tobi began to notice the rules on the fifth day. They weren't written anywhere. They were announced. But they existed, silent, sharp, and very real. Rule 1. She was allowed everywhere, except Ayodele's personal space. Rule 2. Staff spoke to her kindly but carefully. Rule 3. Nobody asked who she was, because everyone already had a theory. And Rule 4. She was starting to care. That one scared her the most. The house felt different that morning. Not hostile, just alert. Morayo sat on the edge of her bed, tying her hair, when she heard laughter downstairs. Feminine, light, familiar in a way that didn't belong to her. Her chest tightened before her mind could catch up. "Ah," she muttered. "So this is how jealousy introduces itself, without invitation." She tried to ignore it. She failed. Downstairs, the woman was beautiful in the way money had refined. Effortless, polished, confident. She stood close to Ayodele, laughing as if the space between them was hers by right. "Morayo," Ayodele said calmly when he noticed her. "This is Tenny." The woman turned and smiled. "Hi." Morayo smiled back, polite but stiff. "Hello. Temporary." Tenny blinked. Ayodele sighed. "Morayo." "It's okay," Morayo said quickly. "I know where I stand." That was the lie. Tenny stayed. Not long, but long enough. She moved through the house like someone who remembered the layout. She teased Ayodele comfortably. She poured herself water without asking. Morayo watched from a distance, pretending to scroll on her phone that had suddenly come back to life thanks to mansion Wi-Fi. "So," Tenny said casually at one point, glancing at Morayo, "how did you two meet?" Morayo answered before Ayodele could. "I checked into his house by mistake." Tenny laughed. "That's new." Ayodele didn't. Later, Morayo retreated to the garden. She sat on a stone bench, the morning sun warm against her skin, trying to breathe past the strange ache in her chest. She didn't belong here. She knew that. So why did it hurt? Ayodele found her there. "You're quiet," he said. "I'm tired," she replied, "of standing where I don't have a name." He frowned. "You have a name." She laughed softly. "You know what I mean." They stood in silence for a moment, the garden too beautiful for the tension filling it. "Tenny is my past," Ayodele said finally. Morayo nodded. "And I'm your accident." His jaw tightened. "You're not an accident." She looked up at him then, surprised by the intensity in his voice. "Then what am I?" she asked softly. He didn't answer. That hurt more than any confirmation could have. That evening, Morayo packed, not dramatically, not angrily, quietly. She folded the borrowed clothes carefully, placed them back on the bed, picked up her small bag. She had stayed too long. She wrote a short note and placed it on the table. "Thank you for the kindness. Some mistakes are too comfortable to stay in." She didn't hear him come in. "Where are you going?" She turned. Ayodele stood in the doorway, eyes dark, controlled, and unsettled. "I'm leaving," she said calmly, "before I forget myself." He stepped forward. "Because of Tenny?" "Because of me," she replied. "I don't want to become a question mark in your house." He was silent. Then quietly, "Stay." She shook her head. "I can't." "Why?" "Because I'm starting to wish I belonged here." The truth hung between them, raw, dangerous. Ayodele reached for her hand. She pulled back, not angry, just afraid. "Not yet," she whispered. She walked past him, heart pounding, unsure if she was doing the brave thing or the foolish one. Behind her, Ayodele Oladapo stood alone in his mansion, realizing something far more unsettling than her departure. For the first time, someone had left him, not because he pushed them away, but because staying would have hurt too much. And that line had finally been crossed. Morayo Tobi stepped out of the mansion and into the sun like someone leaving a dream before it turned into a nightmare. The gate closed behind her with a quiet finality. No trumpet, no drama, just space. She stood on the roadside for a moment, holding her bag, breathing in Lagos air that smelled like fuel, dust, and reality. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "Back to real life." It didn't feel real. Morayo's life resumed the way it always did. Small room, shared bathroom, noisy neighbors, and a fan that worked only when it felt respected. But something had shifted. She laughed less. She slept more. She caught herself staring at nothing, replaying moments she hadn't realized mattered until they were gone. The silk sheets were easy to forget. The way Ayodele had looked at her, like she was a question he wanted to answer, was not. Ayodele Oladapo did not handle the quiet well. The mansion had always been silent. That had been its comfort. Now it was loud. He noticed her absence everywhere, her shoes by the door that were no longer there, the extra cup that wasn't used at breakfast, the chair across from him that stayed empty. Staff moved carefully around him. The house felt wrong. He picked up her note again that night, reading it slower than before. Some mistakes are too comfortable to stay in. He exhaled sharply. Then why does it hurt like loss? He muttered. Days passed. Morayo found work again. Temporary. Exhausting. Grounding. She told herself she was lucky, that nothing truly happened, that she hadn't lost anything real. But on the bus home one evening, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at the screen. Her heart knew before her mind caught up. She didn't answer. The phone buzzed again. Still, she stayed still. Distance, she reminded herself, was protection. Ayodele lowered the phone slowly. Rejection was new to him. He didn't chase. He didn't beg. But this wasn't business. This was unfinished. He drove past her street once. Didn't stop. Just needed to know it existed. That she existed. One evening, Morayo came home to find a small package on her doorstep. No name. Inside was her scarf, the one she'd left behind in the mansion, folded carefully with a note. You forgot this. I don't forget easily. Her chest tightened. She sat on the bed and laughed softly, then pressed the scarf to her face like it could tell her what to do. They were learning the same lessons separately. That absence doesn't erase connection. It sharpens it. Morayo looked at her phone again. Ayodele stared at the city lights from his balcony. Neither reached out. Not yet. But the space between them was no longer empty. It was charged. Waiting. Lagos had a way of reminding people that running away didn't mean disappearing. Morayo Tobi learned that on a Wednesday she hadn't planned to survive. Her boss had sent her across town for a last-minute delivery. The kind of errand that came with no transport allowance and a deadline that felt personal. By the time she reached Victoria Island, the sun was angry, her flats were threatening mutiny, and her patience had officially resigned. She stepped into a cafe, not for enjoyment, but for shade and dignity. Cold water, please, she told the barista. Just water. I'm not in a latte stage of life. The barista smiled sympathetically. Morayo turned and froze. Ayodele Oladapo stood near the window, phone in hand, jacket off, sleeves rolled up like a man trying to convince himself he was fine. For one absurd second, Morayo considered ducking behind the menu. Then he looked up. Their eyes collided. The world did that annoying thing where it paused, like it wanted drama. Ayodele blinked once, twice. Morayo? He said, as if she might be a mirage Lagos had cooked up to punish him. She straightened. Ayodele. Neither moved. The silence stretched. The barista cleared his throat. A spoon clinked. Somewhere a blender roared like it was emotionally invested. Ayodele recovered first. This place, he gestured weakly, has excellent coffee. Morayo glanced at the menu. I ordered water. He nodded seriously. Hydration is important. There it was, the awkwardness. Thick, sticky, almost funny. Almost. She took her water and sat at the far end of the cafe, intending to finish quickly and leave with her dignity intact. Ayodele did not sit. He stood there like a man debating whether pride was worth the regret. Then he walked over. May I? He asked, already pulling out the chair. Morayo sighed. You already did. He sat. Up close, she noticed he looked tired, less polished, like the silence had been unkind to him too. I didn't think I'd see you again so soon, he said. I didn't think I'd see you again at all, she replied honestly. He winced. That was fair. They sat there, words hovering between them like badly behaved children. You left without telling me where you were going, he said softly. Morayo raised an eyebrow. You left without telling me what I was to you. Touché. Ayodele exhaled. I was afraid of naming it. She laughed. Once, sharp and short, I was afraid of being temporary. That landed. Hard. He looked at her then. Not like a billionaire. Not like a man in control. But like someone who'd made a very expensive emotional mistake. Tenny is my past, he said quietly. But I never clarified that properly, and that's on me. Morayo studied him. You don't owe me explanations, just honesty. I owe you that, he replied. Outside, traffic honked. Life continued rudely. Morayo stood. I have to go. This was unexpected. Ayodele rose too. May I at least give you a ride? She hesitated, then shook her head. Not yet. He nodded, accepting it like a man learning patience the hard way. As she walked away, he called out, Morayo. She turned. I don't chase, he said, but I'm not done either. She smiled, small, cautious, real. Good, she said. Neither am I. She stepped back into the city, and Lagos, ever dramatic, smiled to itself. Because when two people are meant to collide again, it never needs help. Morayo Tobi told herself the cafe encounter meant nothing. This was a lie she repeated with impressive discipline. She said it while brushing her teeth. She said it while squeezing into a bus that smelled like yesterday's rain and today's stress. She even said it while laughing with her coworker, who noticed the laugh came half a second late. Almost was dangerous. Almost meant hope. Ayodele Oladapo, on the other hand, stopped pretending. Seeing Morayo again had cracked something open. The carefully sealed box Head put his feelings in now lay on the floor of his mind, contents spilling everywhere like emotional documents he never meant to file. He did something reckless. He asked questions. Find her, he told his assistant. The assistant blinked. Sir, this is not a hostile takeover. Good, Ayodele replied. I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to be honest. Morayo's life responded with chaos. Her landlord knocked one evening with a smile that meant trouble. Rent, he said cheerfully. We are friends, but the building is not. She laughed because crying felt dramatic. Later that night, power went out. Her phone battery followed shortly after. She lay on her bed in darkness, clutching the scarf Ayodele had sent, wondering when comfort had started looking like temptation. The invitation arrived on a Friday, a sleek envelope, her name printed neatly, Oladapo Foundation Charity Gala. She stared at it for a long time. Of course, she muttered. When life wants to be dramatic, it goes formal. Her coworker gasped. Do you know what this event is? Yes, Morayo replied. A place where rich people donate guilt. She tried not to wonder why her name was on the list. She failed. The night of the gala, Morayo walked into a different version of Lagos. Lights, music, dresses that cost more than her rent. She wore a borrowed gown, simple, elegant, slightly too honest for the room. And then she saw him. Ayodele stood near the stage, composed, commanding, every inch the man who owned the space. Their eyes met again. This time, no café table separated them, just history. Ayodele excused himself mid-conversation and crossed the room. You came, he said quietly, like he hadn't been sure she would exist outside his thoughts. I like free food, Morayo replied, and unresolved tension. He smiled. We should talk. She nodded. We should stop pretending. The music swelled, the crowd faded, and for the first time since the mansion, neither of them stepped back, because almost had followed them long enough. And tonight, it wanted an answer. The music at the gala softened into something slow and deliberate, like it knew it was about to witness a turning point. Morayo Tobi became suddenly aware of everything. Her heels sinking slightly into the carpet, the faint scent of Ayodele Oladapo's cologne, the way his attention felt undivided in a room full of people who demanded it daily. So, she said lightly, because seriousness scared her, is this the part where you pretend we're strangers again? Ayodele smiled. But it didn't reach his eyes. I'm tired of pretending. That alone made her heart misbehave. They moved toward a quieter corner, still visible, still public, because some conversations deserved witnesses. I invited you because I didn't want coincidence to keep doing the work, he said. I wanted to see you, properly. Morayo folded her arms, not defensively, but to keep herself steady. And what if I didn't come? I would have deserved that, he replied, but I would have tried again. Respectfully. She laughed softly. That word always sounds better when someone actually means it. Ayodele nodded. I mishandled things. I was careless with silence when you needed clarity. Across the room, whispers began. People noticed when Ayodele Oladapo stopped being strategic and started being human. Morayo noticed too. You're not used to explaining yourself, she said. I'm learning, he replied. You make the lessons. Urgent. Before she could respond, a voice cut in. Tunde, a woman called sharply, approaching with confidence and familiarity. Tenny. She looked radiant, poised, very much part of Ayodele's world. Morayo felt the old instinct to step back rise, but she stayed. Tenny's eyes flicked between them, sharp but controlled. I didn't know you were bringing guests personally now. Ayodele didn't hesitate. Morayo is not a guest. The room seemed to lean in. Tenny smiled tightly. Oh, she's someone I care about, he said calmly. And I should have said that sooner. Morayo's breath caught. Tenny studied her for a moment, then exhaled. Well, she said, turning to Morayo, I suppose Lagos is full of surprises. Morayo smiled back, gentle but unyielding. It really is. Tenny excused herself with grace. Ayodele turned to Morayo, voice low. I won't ask you for forgiveness in public. Good, Morayo replied. This isn't a performance. But I will ask you for honesty, he said. If I'm still standing in the way of your peace, say so. She searched his face, the man, not the myth. You hurt me, she said simply, but you didn't break me. I don't want to be almost anymore, he said. I want to be intentional. The words settled between them like a promise that understood its weight. Morayo looked around the room, at the lights, the privilege, the noise, and realized something quietly powerful. She wasn't intimidated. She wasn't borrowed. She was choosing. Then start by walking me out of here, she said. I need air. Ayodele offered his arm. Not possessive, not rushed. She took it. And together, under 1,000 curious eyes, they stepped away from pretending. Because sometimes, love doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it stands still, tells the truth, and waits. Lagos breathed differently at night. Outside the gala hall, the noise softened into distant traffic and murmured conversations, like the city itself was giving them privacy. Morayo Tobi leaned against the railing, heels dangling in her hand, the cool air finally reaching her skin. Ayodele Oladapo stood beside her, jacket off now, no audience left to impress. For the first time, it was just them. No music, Morayo said lightly, no lights, no witnesses. Ayodele smiled. My favorite setting. She glanced at him. You don't get to sound romantic so easily. It's suspicious. He laughed quietly. Fair warning taken. Silence settled, but it wasn't heavy this time. It was the kind that felt earned. I grew up believing control was safety, Ayodele said finally, that if I managed everything, money, people, outcomes, I'd never be caught unprepared. Morayo nodded. And then I walked into your house, thinking you was a hotel. He chuckled. That was the beginning of my downfall. She turned serious. You scared me, Ayodele. Not because you're powerful, but because you made me feel seen. That kind of thing changes people. That's why I was afraid, he admitted. You didn't want what I could offer. You wanted what I could give. She studied him carefully. And can you? He didn't rush his answer. Yes, he said, but not without learning, not without choosing you intentionally, every day, without shortcuts. Morayo took a breath. I won't be a secret. I won't be an option, and I won't be rescued. He stepped closer, careful, respectful. Then don't be. Be my partner. Walk with me. Correct me when I mess up. Leave if I stop listening. Her eyes softened. You're not afraid I'll leave? I'm afraid I won't deserve you, he said honestly. But I'd rather risk that than lose you quietly. She smiled then, a full, unguarded smile. Okay, she said, but we're starting slow. He extended his hand, palm open. Slow is good. I've rushed enough things in my life. She placed her hand in his, not as a fairy tale ending, as a beginning. Lagos lights blinked below them, unaware that two people had just chosen truth over comfort. And somewhere between wealth and want, they met in the middle, exactly where love lived. Love is not proven by money, power, or grand gestures. It is proven by clarity, respect, and choice. Silence can hurt as much as betrayal. Being honest is braver than being impressive. Real love doesn't rescue, it walks beside. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer someone is not your world, but your willingness to share it. If this story touched you, made you smile, or kept you watching till the very end, don't stop here. Like this story to show your support. Subscribe, like for more emotional, romantic, and dramatic stories like this. Share with someone who believes love should be intentional, respectful, and real. Your support helps bring more beautiful stories to life. Stories of growth, laughter, mistakes, and choosing love the right way. Drop a comment and tell us, which scene moved you the most? Are you team slow love or team grand romance? More chapters, more twists, and more unforgettable characters are coming. Stay with us. Love stories live here. Santa, thank you for watching.